So I had a conversation with someone yesterday about an article that I had come across. And it wasn't even about just men being single at higher rates than previous decades, but in particular, men who are more intelligent. I'm not sure what metric they use to measure this, so take it what you will. But men who are more intelligent are less likely to be in relationships, more likely to be single, and even less likely to seek relationships and interact with women in the first place. Now, I had made the point that people who are more observant are going to see what's going on in the current dating climate. They're going to see what their friends have gone through. They're going to see the disrespect. They're going to see the boundaries being crossed. And they're going to want to opt out. Now, this goes really for any man. Anyone with common sense, I think, is going to feel that way. Now, what he said was, the point he was making was that people who are more intelligent tend to overthink. They tend to overanalyze. And therefore, they're not going to throw the hat in the ring in fear of perfectionism or rejection or have it what you will, right? Now, my thing is this: no matter how confident someone is around women, no matter how much attention they get or do not get from women, they still need to have standards. Again, this is a lot of why you see men opting out. And seeing even more so people in current relationships, the disrespect. You can't tell me a rational person would look at that and want to put up with it or be in that position. Most of the time, relationships that I see and that other people see have someone who is disproportionately a beneficiary, and that tends to be the woman, for day in and day out, while the man is taking constant disrespect. And my point of even talking about this is not to say that this person I was talking to was wrong. This is actually a good friend of mine. It's not to say that he was wrong, because I see his point. I see what he's saying. I mean, I've known people personally who do overanalyze things, who look at things down to the minutia detail and develop a detrimental form of perfectionism, right? And I've heard a good way of this being worded is someone being crushed by their own genius, where this person can be very talented or very skilled at something but not want to try. And I believe that when it comes to things, you never know how far you could take it if you don't try. These people could be 10 out of 10 at it, no makeup needed, by the way. But when it comes to relationships, when it comes to dating, I see things very different. I see being analytical as necessary, because you do not want to be someone who overlooks the red flags. You don't want to be someone who overlooks a woman's past, a mistake I've seen countless men make, because it is going to have potentially lifelong, prolonged effects if you do those things, if you overlook those things. I'm sure we've all known someone, or maybe currently know someone, who is in a marriage or a long-term relationship and puts up with constant disrespect. And then will even go as far to lecture you about how marriage is a good thing, how relationships are important, how a man should be in a relationship. And of course, I've said this many times. I think that marriage and family and having a father and a mother there to raise a kid when it can work out is a great thing. It's an amazing thing. But speaking of perfectionism, let's look at who's really the originator, of that thing. You guys ever seen where a phone will come out, right? The latest phone, let's say it comes out in March or November, whenever it does. And within a number of weeks, there's already trending searches about the next year's model that is long ways away. And people are wondering about the specs and what it offers. What does it bring to the table that the phone I have right now doesn't? And then you find out it was never about the phone. It was about the image. And I saw a comment that worded this really well when it comes to modern women. It was me, myself, and iPhone. I couldn't agree more. But this is exactly how dating feels like. Modern women having this perfectionism, where they will be with a perfectly good man, someone who is respectful, someone who is loyal, someone who is a guy you'd want to introduce to your parents. And they always think they can do better. They're always looking for the next thing, the very next thing that's shiny and better and different. So in many ways, modern women, they don't even know what they want. So how are they going to know what a man wants in a relationship? No self-respecting man with common sense is going to put themselves in that position. And that's the point I was making with this whole intelligence thing. It goes further than that. I don't care if you are a Einstein or not, or PhD. I don't care. If you're someone with common sense, you are going to look at this and you are going to want to play no part in it. Now, there comes a point too, when it comes to relationships and when it comes to respect and when it comes to the way people are treated, where there was a quote, a very memorable quote I remember from a movie. I heard this from the movie Nacho Libre, if you guys remember that one. It came out, I believe, in the early 2000s. Maybe it was around 05, give or take a few years. But it went something like, aren't you tired of getting dirt kicked in your face? And it was the main protagonist of the movie. It was his tag team partner in the lucha wrestling that said it to him. And I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more, because when I see men getting disrespected, openly disrespected, public humiliation like I've seen in some cases among couples, I have to ask, aren't you tired of getting dirt kicked in your face? And, back when that movie came out, we still had Blockbuster and Hollywood Video. I remember seeing that movie multiple times with my father. I think we might have even seen it in theaters. And I saw a post about this where people born between 92 and 99, so myself, were really one of the first generations, or perhaps the only generation, to see this big contrast between a more analog lifestyle that wasn't so dominant with social media and what we have nowadays, where we still had a blend of technology. I'm sure a lot of us remember the SNES and the Nintendo DS and the Sega Genesis and all that. But we saw the shift nowadays, and there was a dramatic shift. Things have shifted in ways that we perhaps could not imagine. And it's not just relationships, by the way, that have changed. It is men as a whole wanting to isolate themselves, because I believe this goes further than relationships. But men wanting to isolate themselves from society. I remember when I was in my early to mid 20s, there came a point where I would stop accepting the invites that my friends gave me. I would even not reach out to them, and I thought maybe I was not being a very good friend. Maybe I was being self-centered. I was second-guessing myself. But what I really came to realize was I was developing discernment. I was developing wisdom through experience. I wasn't going out of my way to seek out women, to seek out relationships. I wanted to focus on my mission and purpose. I was in a position in life where I really, to put it up front, I was kind of lost in many ways. I hit rock bottom. But I quite frankly didn't have time for the games anymore. And I will say this, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to anything, if there is someone there who is going to derail you from your mission and purpose, you have to distance yourself from them. I don't care. And I see so many men who will get with women who are the epitome of a walking red flag. And they will let them do that. They will let them derail them from their mission and purpose, spending time with friends who they've known for years, who are good influences, derailing them from, preventing them from spending time with family who they don't know how much longer is going to be there. All for a woman that is going to disrespect them, cheat on them, and do things behind their back. It does not make any sense in the world. And this is again why I say men who are of common sense, I'm not even going to say more intelligent, I'm just going to say men who have common sense are going to look at that and want nothing to do with it. They're going to want absolutely nothing to do with it. I remember I had someone when I was around 23 who was very boastful about getting female attention, about having a girlfriend. Meanwhile, he was in a relationship and this girl was doing things behind his back and he was doing things behind her back. So it's really, really nonsense. Not going to lead anywhere seriously. Again, why I say men who are looking at this, if it's not going to lead to marriage, family, a girl you could introduce to your parents, there's really no point. But he was getting very arrogant. This is someone I used to work out with in the middle of the gym. And he was trying to talk down to me about this subject, lack of subject matter, quite frankly, in his case, because he doesn't have much to talk about. But I remember I had challenged him, and this was just for fun. Again, I was 23 years old. You guys can probably tell I've come a long way, perhaps, at least I like to think. But I had challenged him to an arm wrestling competition because he was trying to act like he was some tough guy in the gym and all this. And of course, I was single back then. I was single. I've been single for years, so I had a lot of time to practice my arm wrestling skills. But in all seriousness, I remember I had beat him fairly easily. And I did work, blue-collar work here and there, so I did have an amount of functional strength, regardless of my lifts in the gym. And I'm trying to say this in the most composed, least braggadocious, most humble way possible. But he wasn't all that he thought he was. And we were fine after, right? We were talking. I thought it was funny, quite frankly. But my point being, with someone like that, who I don't want to be the judge and say if he's intelligent or not, or say if he's using common sense or not, because a lot of people, I think, fall into this trap and the emotions take a hold of the logical side. But he was one of these guys where he would get with women just to say he's in a relationship, just to act like he is something, because he has a girlfriend or because he gets female attention. And meanwhile, he was in his mid-30s at the time and not married, which there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. But what are you doing with a girl? And what are you doing with multiple women if it is not going to lead anywhere? You are wasting your time. And I'm not even to say that him being not married was the issue. He was not focusing on the things that he should be focused on, not to go into his business, but he was not in a position in life that he should be at where he wants to just relax and chase girls. That is a waste of time at any age, chasing women. But when it comes to the gym, and when it comes to people with that mentality, because I've known people that will go to the gym purely for females. They'll go there to either show off to women or to build muscle to try to impress women. It's the most backwards thing I've ever seen. You don't do things for other people. You don't live for the appeasement of other people. People are inherently flawed. Everyone's going to have their opinion. If you are dependent on other people's opinion and view of you for your own sense of confidence or peace, you're never going to have it. You are never going to have it. And that's why I think it's so backwards when I see stuff like that. And to think that you have a lot of modern women who will come around spaces and stuff like that and try to act like the men are the problem, who are, by the way, choosing to opt out, shows me that they're in really a state of panic because they are seeing that time is going by. They're not having kids. They're not finding those men, by the way. And a lot of these girls, too, in their early 20s and their 20s, they were the ones that were using guys for free meals and free dinners and free drinks and stuff like that, while the men were working hard to make that money that they spend on them. This is not something any man should do, but I've seen men who will spend a lot of money on dates and relationships and stuff like that, again, where they're losing focus on their mission and purpose. You shouldn't have to take a girl out to some fancy restaurant on the first date, especially if she's not worth a fancy restaurant, if you know what I mean. But I've just seen way too many men making that mistake, and I have to say, really, they are not the men who are using common sense. They are just not. That's why you see articles and stuff like that, because anyone who's looking from the outside or has dealt with it themselves from their own experience is not going to want anything to do with it. And these aren't men who are angry. These aren't men who are feeling like they're missing out. A lot of them, if they did feel that way, they grew out of it eventually. But they're focused on the things they need to focus on. I know many men personally who have opted out of dating for some time. They're doing very well for themselves, financially and many other aspects. They're doing very well for themselves. They're the guys that these women who thought they were boring, these modern women in their 20s, are going to beg. They're going to panic to have in their life when they hit a point where they realize the fun doesn't last forever. Those are the kind of men they are. But as always, guys, I appreciate you viewing the video. And I will say before I end this video, this friend who I was talking to about the topic of the article, if you are someone who second guesses yourself or doubts yourself or feels like you're not good enough or subpar because of this idea of perfectionism that is highlighted in dating and in society and social media, don't fall into that. Don't fall into that. There are things that you can do on a daily basis, really in your control, to improve yourself. But you should not be doing it for other people. And that is a problem I see. Like with the phone comparison I used. It's just about the image. It is about what everyone else thinks. And that is why, there's so much, why there's a lack of peace of mind. I'm to the point right now, and I've been to this point for some time, where I will put my solitude above friendships and relationships. Even if I was in a situation where I was dating a girl long term and it would have potentially led to a divorce or custody battle, which I wouldn't wish that on anyone. But I wouldn't want to live with a woman like that. I would risk that to end it because I know what that's going to lead to. I've seen too many men go through that. And again, my point being is, if you let your guard down, if you overlook red flags, if you let a woman like that into your life, that is what is going to happen. Almost certainly. Almost certainly. So, again, guys, I appreciate you viewing the video. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.